Thousands of years before the rise of the Galactic Empire, the Force was revered and studied across many worlds, with various religions and sects emerging to devote themselves to understanding this primal cosmic energy. The most famed and influential of these groups came to be known as the Jedi, a monastic order of Force-sensitive individuals that dedicated themselves to the light side, practicing humility, patience, empathy, and compassion. Over many years of training, some of these Jedi grew to become immensely powerful in the Force, able to move objects with their mind, detect other Force users, and manipulate the weak-minded. It also enhanced their physical abilities, making them faster, stronger, and more resistant to distress and pain. Given their extraordinary abilities, they became masters of lightsaber combat, wielding weapons powered by kyber crystals, many of which were found on the planet of Elam. In order to prevent abuses of power or the corruption of their community, a council of Jedi Masters was chosen to oversee their affairs and ensure all Jedi adhered to the principles of the Jedi Code. Yet not all were content to obey the rigid rules and slow training process of the Order, desiring to expand their knowledge and increase their abilities without restraint. One such individual came to believe that there was a power in their base primal emotions, channeling fear, anger, and pain to harness the energy of the dark side. The dark side offered Force sensitives a faster, more intense training regimen that led them to great power far more quickly than traditional Jedi teachings. It also presented a whole new understanding of the Force to be studied and explored, which eventually allowed them to wield exciting new abilities like Force lightning. However, when the Rogue explained his new philosophy to the Jedi Council, they were outraged, exiling him from the Order. Yet many other Jedi were fascinated by this new approach to the Force, and so followed the Rogue, learning the ways of the dark side. The Sith, as they became known, inevitably came into conflict with their former brothers in the Force during a time known as the 100-Year Darkness. Yet the Sith were not able to overcome the well-established Jedi Order, and so retreated into unexplored space, settling on the planet of Moraband, where they built a new dark side civilization that would expand to conquer many other planets and systems. Upon Moraband, they built great temples, one of which housed an execution chamber where they sacrificed Jedi prisoners. Many of the Sith were buried in the Valley of the Dark Lords, and it was from Moraband that they planned their wars against the Jedi Order and the alliance of planets known as the Republic, which the Jedi protected. For many years, the Sith battled their ancient enemy in conflicts that grew so deadly, superweapons powered by enormous kyber crystals were built to inflict mass devastation. When the fighting reached the planet of Malachor, a superweapon within a Sith temple was activated, destroying the world in what came to be known as the Great Scourge of Malachor. During the chaos of these years, the Sith invaded and held Coruscant, capital of the Republic, and there built a shrine to the dark side. Eventually, the Republic would take back this world, and so the Jedi attempted to seal off the dark side influence by building a great light side temple over the shrine, but this was only partially successful, and the Sith would one day come to make great use of this ancient source of dark side energy. During the Dark Age, they fought a final conflict known as the Jedi-Sith War, where once again the Sith captured Coruscant, only for the planet to be liberated in the year 1032 BBY. Despite the great advances and unending aggression of the mighty Sith, years of infighting weakened them to such an extent they were ultimately defeated by the Jedi, with the legendary dark side master Darth Bane emerging from the conflict as the sole surviving Sith Lord. Recognizing the self-destructive nature of the Sith and wanting to avoid future infighting, Darth Bane created the Rule of Two, declaring that only two Sith could ever exist at any one time, a master to embrace the power of the dark side and an apprentice to desire that power. In this way, they would work in the shadows, secretly manipulating events to destroy the Jedi Order and return the Sith to dominance throughout the galaxy. Darth Bane was eventually defeated by the Jedi, and after his death was buried in the Valley of the Dark Lords on Moraband, but his teachings and philosophy lived on through his secret apprentice, who escaped Jedi notice. The years of chaos and war took a heavy toll on the galaxy and ultimately led to the fall of the Old Republic. Yet with the Sith seemingly defeated, a new Galactic Republic emerged and for 1,000 years flourished under the protection of the Jedi Order. Slowly and without need for violence or war, the Republic expanded across the galaxy, spreading their values of democracy, equality, and justice to all member worlds. Those outside their borders, however, were often left to their own devices, making the outer rim of the galaxy a refuge for pirates and criminals, which then led to a culture of animosity between Republic and non-Republic worlds. Meanwhile, the legacy of Darth Bane continued on in the shadows, with his apprentice becoming master of the Sith, and in keeping with the rule of two, took on a single apprentice. With only 2 Sith ever alive at one time, the only method of advancement would be for the apprentice to kill and take the place of their master, and so the relationship was maintained on a balance of loyalty and strength. As long as the master was strong, the apprentice owed absolute obedience. Yet if either one wavered in their strength or loyalty, the other would be justified to attack, leaving only a single Sith alive to find a new apprentice and begin the process again. After 1,000 years, the lineage of Bane led to Darth Plagueis the Wise and his apprentice Sheev Palpatine of Naboo, who took the name Darth Sidious. Plagueis was a powerful Dark Lord who found the secret of manipulating the Force to prevent himself from aging, and may even have had the ability to prevent the deaths of others. Together with his apprentice, they worked to place Palpatine in the Galactic Senate, while Plagueis remained in the shadows, manipulating events from afar. Over time, the Sith Master became obsessed with immortality and understanding the nature of the Force, even developing a theory that it could strike back against those who abuse its power. Yet for all his wisdom and cunning, he could not foresee the betrayal of his apprentice. Darth Sidious was never able to learn his master's secret for immortality, but nevertheless felt he had learned all that was necessary, and killed Plagueis while he slept, taking his place as master of the Sith. In keeping with the rule of two, Sidious already had an apprentice of his own, choosing the Force-sensitive child of Mother Talzin, a powerful witch from the planet Dathomir. This young Night Brother became known as Darth Maul, and was trained in the ways of the dark side, specializing in the use of a dual-bladed red lightsaber. Maul's aggression, speed, and strength were impressive even to Sidious, and as he learned of their history, the apprentice grew wrathful, desiring vengeance against the Jedi who defeated the Sith in the last war. However, Sidious was not prepared to reveal their existence, and so forbid Maul from going after the Jedi, leaving him to satisfy his lust for violence by hunting Rathtars on Tuan Kati. Yet the Sith Master also recognized Maul's need for a greater challenge, and so sent him to deal with pirates harassing the Trade Federation. During this time, dealing with the threat, he learned of a Jedi Padawan who had been taken as a prisoner, and tracked the Twi'lek woman down, eager to test himself. Hiring a group of bounty hunters to help rescue the Jedi. For a time they fought side by side, eliminating pursuers as they escaped. However, once the immediate threat was gone, the Jedi Padawan and Sith apprentice turned against each other, engaging in a lightsaber duel, with Darth Maul emerging victorious. Meanwhile, Sidious, acting as Senator Palpatine, manipulated the galactic government from within, finding allies and earning a reputation as a man of action and integrity. While in secret, he took every opportunity to manipulate the process for his own benefit. Fortunately for the Sith Lord, after so many years of Republic rule, the government had grown corrupt and seemed to only truly care about maintaining the luxury of the core worlds at the expense of all the others. The Jedi considered themselves allies and servants of the Republic, but did not think it appropriate to interfere in matters of politics, and so were unable to prevent the factionalism and partisanship of the Senate, blinding themselves to the possible consequences of deep political turmoil. Yet not all Jedi were unaware of this potential for conflict, as Master Sifo Dyas foresaw a larger threat approaching. Though he was expelled from the Jedi High Council for his beliefs, he was convinced a war was coming, and traveled in secret to the world of Kamino, where he ordered the creation of a clone army. However, Palpatine became aware of his actions and contacted Lama Su, the Prime Minister of Kamino, arranging for every clone soldier to be implanted with an inhibitor chip that would allow the Dark Lord to gain control of the entire army at the moment of his choosing. Darth Sidious then ordered the death of the Jedi Master, using the fallen Jedi Count Dooku to arrange for his ship to be shot down above the moon of Obadiah. After 1,000 years, Darth Sidious was at last prepared to unleash the revenge of the Sith against the Jedi Order, beginning with what came to be known as the Naboo Crisis. 32 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Dark Lord made a secret alliance with the Trade Federation, an enormous merchant conglomerate with its own representation in the Senate, convincing them to invade the planet of Naboo in protest of the recent taxes imposed upon free trade zones. This then prompted a diplomatic crisis in the Galactic Senate, which Senator Palpatine used to bring down Chancellor Finis Valorum so he might be elected as his replacement. Unfortunately for the Dark Lord, not everything went according to plan, as it was during the Naboo Crisis crisis that the existence of the Sith was revealed when his powerful apprentice Darth Maul was sent to kill Jedi Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. Although Maul proved to be shrewd and masterful with a lightsaber, engaging both at once and even killing the Jedi Master, he was ultimately defeated and seemingly killed by the Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi. Sidious was deeply disappointed by the loss of his apprentice, having spent years training him in the ways of the dark side, and had no choice but to find another, selecting the former Jedi Count Dooku, who took the name Darth Tyrannus. Trained as a Jedi from a young age, Dooku proved supremely gifted in the Force, chosen as the apprentice of Master Yoda before rising to the rank of Jedi Knight. Famed as perhaps the greatest lightsaber duelist in the Order, he soon took an apprentice of his own, training and befriending Qui-Gon Jinn. Unfortunately, Dooku grew frustrated with the corruption he saw in the Republic government, and became disillusioned by the Jedi Council's unwillingness to involve themselves in political affairs. And so Master Dooku left the Order, going into self-imposed exile for a time, and there was approached by Darth Sidious, who offered him the chance to destroy the old, corrupt government and replace it with one of his own design. In order to achieve this, Darth Tyrannus was ordered to reach out to a number of worlds and systems, taking advantage of the growing resentment towards the Republic. After a number of years, he created an alliance between thousands of worlds, which then all seceded and declared themselves the Confederacy of Independent Systems. Chancellor Palpatine then used the secessionist threat as an excuse to pass the Military Creation Act, allowing for the Republic to raise an army. The Jedi and Senate, unaware that both sides of the conflict were being manipulated by the Sith, took the separatist threat seriously and made the decision to use the recently discovered clone army of Kamino as Republic forces against Dooku and his droid armada. The Clone Wars, as they became known, dragged on for many years, causing great devastation on both sides. Yet this was all a part of the Sith plan, as it allowed Palpatine to gradually gain emergency powers as Chancellor of the Senate. As Count Dooku worked to strengthen the Separatist alliance, he brought in many powerful factions such as the Trade Federation, the Banking Clan, the Techno Union, the Commerce Guild, and the Corporate Alliance. Having fully embraced the dark side and their ambitious, selfish nature, it was not long before he already started planning for the future and the day he would overthrow Sidious to replace him as Master of the Sith. And so when he learned of a powerful Force user who had defeated the pirates and warlords of the planet Ratatak, he offered her a place by his side to serve as his apprentice. Asajj Ventress, as she was known, was born into the Night Sister clan of Dathomir, but was sold into slavery at a young age. During her time on the planet Ratatak, she was found by a stranded Jedi who trained her as his Padawan. Yet soon her master was killed, and this loss affected her so deeply, she turned to the dark side and went on a mission of vengeance. Asajj proved a useful tool for Dooku. However, Sidious grew concerned about the dark side assassin and how powerful she was becoming. Confronting Dooku, the Dark Lord demanded to know if he'd taken on his own apprentice in the hopes of replacing Sidious as Master of the Sith. Though that indeed was Dooku's plan, he was forced to deny it, and was ordered to kill Ventress to prove his loyalty. And while Dooku gave the order to have her ship destroyed, his former apprentice survived the attack and returned to her homeworld of Dathomir, where Mother Talzin and the Night Sisters healed her wounds. Working together with the clan, Asajj then set out on a mission of revenge, but failed in her first attempt to kill her former master. Fortunately, Dooku did not learn who was responsible for the attack, and so when Mother Talzin approached, offering a new dark side apprentice to replace Ventress, he accepted her offer, and so Savage Opress, a powerful Force user and brother of Darth Maul, was given over to Dooku, though his true loyalty was to the Night Sister Asajj Ventress. Eventually, the deception was revealed, and Dooku was forced to engage both of his former apprentices, but they were unable to overcome the Sith Lord, and Savage, having grown enraged by the taunts and dismissal of both his dark side masters, turned against Ventress as well, pinning all three against each other briefly until they became separated and escaped. Ventress later returned to Dathomir, only for Dooku to send a droid army against them, wiping out the Night Sisters, and leaving his former apprentice alone in the galaxy, forced to become a bounty hunter for her remaining years. Savage, however, was not finished with being a dark side apprentice, as he was sent on another mission by Mother Talzin before the Night Sisters were destroyed, seeking out his brother Maul, who survived the duel with Obi-Wan Kenobi through his deep connection to the Force. Although Maul had been grievously wounded, he was eventually found and given cybernetic legs. Maul, now yearning for vengeance and eager to carve a new place for himself in the galaxy, took his brother Savage as a Sith apprentice, modeling their relationship after the Rule of Two and legacy of Darth Bane. Together, the brothers went off, wreaking havoc across the galaxy, forming a Shadow Council, and even coming to rule the planet of Mandalore. Yet when Darth Sidious learned of Maul's survival and his formation of a secondary group of Sith, he came to see his former apprentice as a rival, and so went personally to Mandalore and engaged the brothers, killing Savage and imprisoning Maul. Although Maul eventually escaped captivity, he never again rose to the heights he'd once reached, and over time became obsessed with seeking vengeance against Kenobi, who robbed him of the chance to become a great Dark Lord of the Sith. Yet his obsession only served to stunt his growth and power in the Force, whereas Master Kenobi became wiser, more patient, and cunning with each passing year. Decades later, Maul at last tracked down the old Jedi to Tatooine, where they fought a final duel, resulting in Obi-Wan quickly defeating and killing his old foe. As the Clone Wars went on, Sidious continued to use his apprentice Count Dooku to sow chaos and division across the galaxy. However, he also saw great potential in another, believing that the young Jedi Anakin Skywalker might one day become far more powerful than Dooku and a more worthy Sith apprentice. Anakin Skywalker had once been a slave on Tatooine, but was discovered by Qui-Gon Jinn, who after learning that the child had been conceived by the Force, came to believe he was the chosen one, which prophecy stated would one day bring balance to the Force. Despite being too old for traditional Jedi training, Anakin was taken as the apprentice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and quickly grew to be a powerful Force user and masterful with a lightsaber. Nevertheless, he was proving a poor Jedi, unable to control his emotions, and suffering from night terrors in which he envisioned future tragedies and the death of loved ones. As he grew more powerful and earned the rank of Jedi Knight, he became arrogant in his skills, resentful towards the Council for not making him a master, and even bitter towards Obi-Wan for constantly treating him like a Padawan. Anakin also fell in love with Senator Amidala, violating the Jedi Code by marrying her in secret. Chancellor Palpatine, who grew close to Anakin from a young age, took every opportunity to encourage his independent thinking, slowly luring him to the dark side. Sidious even organized his own kidnapping in order to manipulate events so that Anakin and Obi-Wan would have to face Count Dooku in battle. In the past, Dooku had faced and defeated both of these Jedi, only failing to kill them because of the interference of Master Yoda. But this time, the fight proved more challenging. Although the Dark Lord defeated Obi-Wan, he was unable to overcome Anakin Skywalker and was beheaded at the order of Palpatine. With his apprentice dead, the Chancellor offered Anakin a place by his side and revealed himself as a Sith Lord. Anakin at first was shocked by the revelation and reported the discovery to Mace Windu, who along with Jedi Masters Kit Fisto, Agen Kolar, and Saisi Tin went off to arrest the Chancellor. But Sidious was so powerful, he was able to kill all the Jedi save Mace Windu, who was able to reflect back his Force lightning. Yet just as Master Windu was about to land the finishing blow, Anakin Skywalker cut off his arm, allowing for Sidious to send the Jedi flying out a window to his death. Anakin had fallen to the dark side, believing that only with the help of Darth Sidious would he be able to prevent the death of his wife and unborn child. And so Sidious named his new apprentice Darth Vader and ordered him to kill the last of the Separatist leadership to bring an end to the Clone Wars. With the attempt on his life a failure, Sidious pronounced Order 66, triggering the inhibitor chips in all clone soldiers to have them turn against their Jedi generals. Sidious then ordered Darth Vader to lead the assault against the Jedi Temple on Coruscant, killing the younglings as his initiation into the dark side. Although the Great Jedi Purge finally granted the Sith vengeance against their ancient enemy, some few escaped the massacre and went into hiding. In order to hunt down these last remaining Jedi, Sidious created the Inquisitorius, a group of Force-sensitive dark side acolytes of limited power who would report to Darth Vader. Leading this group was a former Jedi Temple guard who grew disillusioned with the Order towards the end of the war and then fell to the dark side. Having survived the initial purge, Obi-Wan Kenobi tracked down his fallen apprentice Anakin Skywalker, engaging in a duel that ended with Obi-Wan as the victor, cutting off Anakin's legs and an arm while leaving him to burn in the fires of Mustafar. Obi-Wan then departed as his former apprentice screamed in pain, unwilling to finish him off, instead leaving his fate to the Force. As a result, Sidious rescued his apprentice and built him a cybernetic suit, teaching him to use pain, anger, and hatred as fuel to reach new heights of power in the dark side. Padme Amidala died soon after learning of Anakin's betrayal of the Jedi, but was able to successfully give birth to twins, naming them Luke and Leia before her passing. The children of Anakin Skywalker were split up, with Obi-Wan taking the boy to Tatooine to live with relatives of Anakin's mother, while the girl was given to Bail Organa, who would raise her as a princess of Alderaan. Though the purge and subsequent hunt for the Jedi nearly wiped them out, some few did survive, such as Grandmaster Yoda, who went into exile on Dagobah, having learned from the Force that it was his destiny to wait for the one who would restore the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, with the Separatists and Jedi both defeated, Chancellor Palpatine dissolved the Republic and declared himself Emperor of the First Galactic Empire. Having kept track of all those who opposed him during the years of the Clone Wars, Palpatine began to arrest and kill any who posed a threat to his power. Yet some of these people went into hiding, while others feigned loyalty to the Emperor, as they organized a rebellion in secret, working from the shadows to restore the Republic. With his enemies largely vanquished, Emperor Palpatine ruled for many years, during which time he consolidated his power, reorganizing the government and military, and diminished the power of the Senate to become a symbolic organization with no real authority. Sidious also spent time training Vader in the ways of the Sith, with one of his first lessons teaching the truth about kyber crystals, and how they were living beings that could feel pain and be made to bleed. Vader was therefore sent off to track down a Jedi and take his lightsaber, so he might remove the kyber crystal within and corrupt it with his anger and hatred. Finding Kirak Infila living in self-imposed exile on the river moon of Aldolim, the battle nearly ended with the death of Vader. However, by exploiting the Jedi's compassion, Infila was forced to use his powers to save the people of a local city, and this distraction allowed Vader to steal his green lightsaber and snap his neck with the Force. Afterwards, Vader went to Mustafar and attempted to corrupt the crystal with the help of a Sith shrine, yet it proved a difficult process, as the crystal channeled the light side and resisted him, even granting him a vision that tested his dedication to the dark side. But ultimately, he passed the test and bled the crystal, creating his own red lightsaber. The hilt of the weapon, however, would later break during an assassination attempt on Vader's life, and so he built a new lightsaber using the same red crystal he bled on Mustafar. For years, Vader acted as the secret enforcer for Emperor Palpatine, often dealing with an ever-increasing number of rebel attacks across the galaxy. On one occasion, the Emperor joined Vader on a trip to Ryloth, which was having trouble with the Free Ryloth movement, which fought to free the planet from Imperial control. During this journey, their ship was shot down, and the rebel group attempted to kill the Emperor and Vader, only to fail and be forced to flee their homeworld. One of these Twi'lek rebels was the famous hero Cham Syndulla, who along with his daughter Hera would come to play an important role in the development of a larger rebel alliance. Though few were even aware of Darth Vader's existence, some high-level Imperials worked with him on a number of projects, such as Wilhuff Tarkin and Thrawn, both of which were exceptional officers that gained Vader's respect, with Tarkin even becoming somewhat of a friend to the Dark Lord. Vader was also one of the few privy to the larger plans of the Emperor, learning about his secret efforts to build a superweapon called the Death Star. While investigating rebel activity on Lothal, Vader interacted and fought with Jedi Kanan Jarrus and his apprentice Ezra Bridger, and could have easily defeated them, but chose to let them live so he might follow their ship. Later, while once again facing these rebel Jedi on the planet of Malachor, his former apprentice Ahsoka Tano interfered, distracting the Dark Lord so the others might escape. When a group of rebel agents infiltrated an Imperial base on the planet of Scarif and stole the plans to the Death Star, Vader chased after them, following a ship that carried Princess Leia Organa, his long-lost daughter who was now a senator from Alderaan. Although she held the plans for a time, Leia hid them with her astromech droid R2-D2 and sent him on an escape pod to the planet of Tatooine, where he might find Obi-Wan Kenobi and enlist his aid in taking the information to the rebel leadership. While on Tatooine, R2-D2 encountered Luke Skywalker, who took the droid home to his family's moisture farm. But it was not long before Imperial forces tracked down the droid, destroying Luke's home and killing his aunt and uncle. After learning of the plight of the Alliance, and with no more ties to Tatooine, Luke joined Obi-Wan in his journey to find the rebellion, and began his Jedi training. With the help of Han Solo, Chewbacca, and the Millennium Falcon, Obi-Wan, Luke, and the droids left Tatooine, and were able to rescue Princess Leia, but not before Grand Moff Tarkin used the Death Star to destroy the planet of Alderaan. While on board the Death Star, Vader sensed the re-emergence of his old Jedi Master, and sought out Obi-Wan, who sacrificed himself, fighting off the Dark Lord so Luke and the others could escape. Making contact with the rebellion on the moon Yavin 4, the Death Star tracked their movements, and so confronted the Alliance fleet in the Battle of Yavin. A number of X-Wing fighters were then sent to destroy the Death Star, having found a single weakness in the structure's design. And while it seemed like an impossible mission, by channeling the Force, Luke was able to shoot proton torpedoes directly into the exhaust port of the great superweapon, creating a chain reaction that destroyed the Death Star, killing Grand Moff Tarkin, who commanded the ship. 4 years after the Battle of Yavin, Luke continued his training, this time on Dagobah, under Master Yoda, but left before he was ready in order to rescue his friends taken captive in Cloud City. Yet his mission was a failure, with Luke defeated by Darth Vader in combat, losing a hand and learning that the Sith Lord was his father, the former Jedi Anakin Skywalker. Fortunately, Luke and his friends were able to escape with their lives and return to the Alliance. Learning of a second Death Star being constructed, Han and Leia led an attack against a shield generator on the forest moon of Endor, while Luke went aboard the ship to confront Sidious and Vader directly. After a grueling battle in which the dark side briefly took hold of Luke, allowing him to defeat his father Darth Vader, Sidious was ready to offer Luke a place by his side as his new apprentice if only he finished off his father. But Luke ultimately rejected the dark side and threw down his lightsaber. Sidious, disappointed in his potential new pupil, attacked him with Force lightning, putting so much of his power into the attack, he left himself vulnerable. Darth Vader, unable to watch his son die, reached out and threw the Sith Lord down a cavernous shaft to his death. Vader, who was grievously injured by the energy pulsing through the Emperor, then collapsed and asked Luke to remove his mask so he might see his son with his own eyes one last time before death. Having returned to the light side of the Force, Anakin Skywalker's consciousness survived the death of his body, joining Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon, and Yoda as spirits within the Force. Through Vader's actions at the end of his life, many believed he at last fulfilled the ancient prophecy of the Chosen One, having destroyed both the Jedi and Sith to bring balance to the Force. With the Death Star destroyed and the Emperor and Vader killed, the Galactic Empire was severely crippled, though not yet defeated. The surviving leadership of the Empire would abandon many core worlds, retreating into the Outer Rim where Imperial governors, admirals, and moffs began conspiring against each other, engaging in small-scale civil wars to determine the new hierarchy. Eventually, the few Imperial officers and ships that remained retreated into unknown space, and there reformed into the First Order, led by Supreme Leader Snoke, a powerful non-Sith dark side Force user. Snoke wore a golden ring with an obsidian stone, mined from beneath Vader's castle on Mustafar, inscribed with glyphs from the Four Sages of Dwarti, a group of philosophers and lawgivers from the early days of the Galactic Republic. During his time in power, Emperor Palpatine kept statues of these figures on display in his chambers on Coruscant. The Rebel Alliance then dissolved to become a new Republic government led by a Galactic Senate, with the former Senator and Rebel leader Mon Mothma serving as the first elected Chancellor. As the new Republic worked to fill the power vacuum left behind, Luke Skywalker, last of the Jedi, became responsible for the creation of a new Jedi Order. The Sith, however, were now entirely destroyed, with the lineage of Darth Bane finally extinguished. Yet their legacy would live on, as many future beings were inspired by the power the Sith once held. Groups like the Acolytes of the Beyond, who venerated the Sith and collected artifacts like what they believed was Darth Vader's lightsaber, destroying the items in the belief that this returned them to their deceased owners. Later, Kylo Ren, as he became known, longed to become as powerful as the Sith, often speaking to the ruined helm of Darth Vader, trying to communicate with his legendary grandfather. Love audiobooks? Then be sure to check out Audible, where they have the world's largest collection available. Simply sign up through the link in the description box below and get 2 free audiobooks to start out. A special thanks to all those who contribute to CivilizationEx, like Sir Dayron of House Ashford, Madam Faith, Winter Sorceress of House Scarisbrick, Tio, the Iron Banker, and Sir Rice of the Dreadfort. If you would like to help CivilizationEx, click on the Patreon link, and please be sure to like and subscribe, and click on the links to see more.